What's up, Banana Bunch? You know what time it is. It's time for another episode of the Jungle Gyms podcast. I'm your host, Mark. Welcome to the show. I want to thank everyone for coming out to Pickle Wars, because I'm pretty sure this aired just after Pickle Wars. And if it hasn't aired just after Pickle Wars, you should totally come to Pickle Wars. But no, kidding aside, thank you all so much for coming out. It was an amazing event. I can't wait to share all of the incriminating footage of all of you that I got that weekend. It was great. As always, I ask that you follow Jungle Gyms on Eventbrite. That's where we'll post all of our upcoming events. We've just announced that we've got, as part of the tour for Sandwiches of History, if you don't follow Barry online, you got to, at Sandwiches of History. But Barry's doing a stop here, and he's doing it at Jungle Gyms, and I'm really excited about this, but he's asked me to be a guest on the show. It's going to be really great. So really looking forward to that. But you can find all of our events, festivals, all that stuff. I heard a rumor I get to announce a festival that you all are very excited about soon, too. That's kind of crazy. I can't believe that's actually happening. It's my most frequent no to you, but it might be a yes. So hopefully you know what I'm talking about. As well, download the Jungle Gyms app. You get weekly exclusive savings in there. You can see the ad deals coming up, so you can kind of plan ahead, and you can watch the 5 most recent episodes of the Jungle Gyms podcast. Love that. Still looking for some food experts out there. If you're aware of the differences in American foods with regards to chemicals versus international foods, I'd love to talk to you. I did meet someone recently. I think it'll be really helpful for that too, but I want to meet a lot of you, and I think this is just something that's important to talk about, especially in light of other things happening in the world. How do I say this apolitically? Let's just move on to it. I'm here today with a friend. You know, we've really just kind of become truly friendly, I'd say, in recent times, which is kind of nice, but I've known who you are for a long time. But I'm here today with musician extraordinaire, fun, creative person in general. This is Benjamin James Howard. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Excited to be here.
How would you describe yourself?
God, I don't even know. Yeah. I like to consider myself a creative, you know, but some things I do are not that creative. They're more clerical, like, you know, day job wise.
Sure. Well, now I'm thinking about the photo organization we were just talking about before the show started.
It's just like a nerdy. I'm a nerd.
Me too.
So there you go.
We're in good company. I think this will be good.
But
today.
no, I consider myself a musician. You're right. You know, somebody says like lead with like your, like how, like what do you do? You know,
right.
And it's just like, I don't really care what I do for money, but I do write songs. So, you know.
And great songs.
Thanks. Yeah. So that's what I am, I guess.
Yeah, well, you've just come off a hot new release, right?
A hot one.
It is a hot one.
A hot one.
It was one of those that I felt so bad not making it out to the show, too, because I'm sitting here at like 7:30. I was like, yeah, there's no way I'm making this in time.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah, I know, but, you know. But I want to support it. It's the thing. I know you get it.
Yeah.
But it's that thing where I am always like, I want to support everyone.
Yeah.
And then I'm just like, where's the time go?
That's okay. We had a nice conversation on the phone like the day before that.
That was great.
So I felt like that was your RSVP. That was your
look,
attendance.
I love you. I'm very glad it went well. The show looked very well attended. So
yeah, it was a cool show.
Tell us a little bit about the record.
Well, the record is called Vestiges, and the sort of the exercise for that was to re-record a bunch of old material that kind of got abandoned along the way through the different bands I was in and projects I had done. Some of them were like work for hires, you know, stuff that I had written for a commercial or for something, and it just ended up not really having a home, a place to go. And right before COVID, I was being nerdy and going through like an Excel sheet that I have of like when all these different songs, you know, that I've written, and trying to kind of place when they were written or when they were recorded. I was just kind of organizing it, just being like, how many songs have I written? You know, at some point in time, I was just kind of like, surely there's stuff out there that I maybe think is good now that I didn't like then. And anyway, come to find out, like I was just like, there's an acoustic demo here from 2005. There's an acoustic demo from 2008. There's an acoustic demo from 2012. It was just like I found a through line that like I could trace back and kind of thread all these ideas together that like kind of work together as a weird statement, even though they weren't all written together or for a specific purpose. But I just wanted to like cover myself, you know?
Yeah.
And I didn't change much of anything about the songs. I just played them as I am today, but as they were written, some of them like literally 20 years ago.
That's fun though.
And so it was cool. Like there's like a little mix of like, I was in a pop punk band for a while. So like there's some pop punk stuff, but then there was like some like little reaches to different categories of songwriting that I never really spent time in. Like I don't write country music, but like there's kind of a like Americana country kind of song on there. There's like a blues song on there. I would never like probably seriously release a blues song. Like I'm not in that kind of band, but or never had a band that would ever play that, but it was written. And it's just like these cool songs. I just, got them on tape and then just immediately kind of just cast them aside. Like my band's never going to play that. And they just went to a different pile. But yeah, it was just kind of cool to kind of stack them all up. And it was weird putting it out now because people are asking a lot about the meanings of them and certain things. And it's kind of funny to just be like, well, 20 years ago, it's like, it's like not the response you want to hear with like a new song that just came out.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's kind of hard to like toe that line of like, yes, it's new to your ears, but it's super old for me.
Right.
But it's also kind of renewed for me. I don't know. I don't know. That's kind of it in a nutshell. It's like the reason it's called Vestiges is because it's just it's like a person I'm not anymore, know,
Right.
And I never really became either. So it was just like the last sort of evidence of that songwriter that existed. That was me, you know, but, that was it. It was just kind of a cleaning of the closet kind of thing. And then when COVID hit, I was like, well, now I have to do this project. Like,
Absolutely.
I'm sitting at home with an acoustic guitar. Like, I might as well just do it now.
Yeah, you're like, what else is going on?
So, yeah. And it just kind of was sprinkling out breadcrumbs. In fact, we're filming this on the 4-year anniversary of that first acoustic single coming out.
That's right. I forgot you
so I was like,
that. Yeah.
slowly kind of sprinkled them out until I had enough time and wherewithal to put the whole thing out. But yeah,
that's one of those things I feel like non-artists don't know about the creative process.
Yeah.
Where you're like, okay, so it's not just making the thing itself, right? Not like the art. It's like, then it's like, especially in modern times where it is like, find the space to do it. Oh, I got to do a release event. Okay, great. Now I got to plan an event. Excuse me. You're doing all of this social, I mean, like there's so many layers to it. I mean, I remember when we talked the night before the show and I just remember being like, are you doing okay? You're like, yeah mostly.
I'm fine. Yeah.
Just trudging through it.
I was really nervous about that show, the release show for the album, because I just hadn't performed like my own material in a really long time.
Yeah.
And I've never performed these songs before.
Sure.
I've never just stood up there with an acoustic guitar. Like I've done like cover shows and like, whatever for fun, for cash, but I never really
a little bit of both.
Yeah. But like I felt like fish out of water in a sense. Like I just didn't really feel like that's ever where I imagined myself. Like that singer songwriter just standing there with an acoustic guitar playing, like with my own material and the material that is based on acoustic guitar. Like as opposed to me just playing like a Pluto Revolts or a Bottom Line show back in the day where I was playing a song that was clearly designed and written and recorded like aesthetically like a rock band or loud, electric thing. And then I'm up there playing an acoustic version of that. This was more or less like these songs are acoustic and you have to represent them like you in an instrument, just bare bones. And so I felt like really nervous about that. So I was probably drudging up that emotion for the most part. Like the promotion of it at that point, it was just like, whoever's going to show up is going to show up. And I can't control that anymore. The ad money was spent.
That's right. The word's out.
Zuckerberg has my cash for that. Hopefully he does his part of it. But
maybe he'll chip in a little bit next time. I heard he's doing okay.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I was just really nervous. I was doing like breathing exercises like to go up on stage. Like I was just like, my heart was racing. I don't know. I think that means like I care about it.
Absolutely.
Obviously. But it hit me in a spot where I was just not prepared for that kind of like emotional reaction. I've been performing my whole life and I was just like, so like I'm exposed up here. Like we're recording it, there's like video, audio recording and like taking a million photos. I was like, there's a lot riding on me, like actually nailing these songs. So I was a little bit nervous, but
understandably so. I mean, again, another one of those things where it's like the audience was on board regardless. But I feel like as the artist, we're always going to be in that space because, like you said, it's like something you're passionate about and you care about. You're like, not only do I want this to be good for them, I don't know if it's just me, but every time I get on stage, I was like, I want this to be be good for me because afterwards they're going to tell me it was good, even if it was objectively, because a
lot of them are going to lie to me and say it was good. For sure. It wouldn't matter if I fucked
up. It's funny. I never think they're actually lying. I think like they genuinely think we did something good, and especially if it's someone who like can't do the things that you do. So it's like, Yeah, it's like, oh, that seemed effortless to you. Like, cool. I've been doing breathing exercise the last 30 minutes to just get out here, right? Yeah. But it is one of those things I think about sometimes too, where it's like they love it, but we're gonna beat ourselves up. I went and did karaoke recently, and I had like slept the night before. I was like, that was terrible. And then I see the clip. I was like, all right, that was fine. But I knew I hated it, and I'm like, I'm never doing this again.
Yeah.
You know? And I was like, that was like my most recent like musical performance. I was like, I shouldn't get a band together again. What am I thinking? You know what I mean? Just beating myself up, and it's so silly, but that's what I love about it. So that again, it's like the barometer for passion.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Well, like the promotion of things after they come out is like kind of become a drag these days. Like I must admit, you know, so like, making the thing is barely, that's the fun part, you know? And even when it's the most frustrating that it could be, where you're just like spinning your tires on some sort of idea and you can't really figure out like, man, why am I not nailing this vocal? Or like, why isn't this coming together the way like I imagined it kind of coming together, and you have to like find it. I've been in projects where like we had to like we took days, if not weeks, if not months to find it, you know?
Yeah.
Like there's a Pluto song on the last EP that we released, like that first song, we were just like rewriting. Like it was like, I believed in this idea, but like I've never run something. I would have abandoned that so many times over, like in other bands or with other songs, but I just like, I liked this idea so much that we just like kept redoing it. And when it's finally done, it was like, oh, that's awesome. Like I'm so proud of how it came out. And then you got to tell people it's out there. Cause like it's usually the easy part, but that was the hard part. But then like, you've got this whole other piece of the pie. The other half of the pie is just like trying to get people to like pay attention to it. And that's a drag. You know?
It's, you know, I think about this sometimes where there's so much stuff. Let me back up another step, actually. I think about this a lot, especially with like auditions post-COVID, for example. Yeah. I love when something happens that levels the playing field a little bit, right? Because like I love the idea that now a lot of people get to play in the sandbox that I'm in. I want friends, right?
Yeah.
And I see this for it's all art forms in the digital age, right? Is that like the nature of music, specifically in this case, the ease of distribution. Now everybody's a musician, right? And I don't mean that bad, but if I'm being honest, a lot of them are awful, and that's just the name of the game, right? Because again, some people do have friends that will lie to you, so you got to find out who are the real ones. But I think about that so now it's like cutting through the noise of, I mean, I would wager something like everyone in town probably has a musical project now, right?
Yeah.
And nothing wrong with that. I'm glad they do. I hope everybody gets their creative outlet, but it does, in my opinion, make it harder for the really gifted people to cut through that noise. Because if, you know, I mean, I was off Facebook for like 5 months. I got on it the first day. It was just like, look at me. And that's what it's for. Right. But it is a crazy thing where I'm like, wow, every day, every person, at least I know, and I would assume it's all of us, are being bombarded with that. It's like, how do you cut through? And so you're then, as the creator of this stuff, going like, that's half my life now. I'm like, what insane thing do I have to do in order to get someone that casually likes me to hit share? You're right. You know what I mean?
I've benefited from a level playing field and also been experienced that fatigue as well. Just experienced like the frustration. I've been like first in line to complain about the competition in any sense. Yeah. But like at the same time, like, I do benefit from the fact that like I can just independently release an album and it's on Spotify tomorrow.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
and it's like,
pretty cool. Like no one has to, and I can, for a very like reasonable expense, I can create a thing, you know, myself. Whereas like I was relying on a label 20 years ago.
Yeah. So. And like they were in complete control.
Right.
I just remember when the first bit of like TuneCore and CD Baby and all that stuff started really popping off. I guess it was just probably 19 years ago. You know what I mean? Like just shy of that, where it was like, and you know, it was starting to happen. And I did an EP in like 2008 that I put out. I remember being like, why isn't everybody doing this? And now I'm like, thank God it was 2008 and no one else had that conversation with me, because it allowed me to make some money off a single, you know, because now that would have just been an absolute loss leader. You're like, oh, cool. Well, he did it, you know?
Yep. Yeah.
It's like one of the only things that bums me out about modern art in the digital age, which is that there's so much now.
There's so much.
It's just like, okay, I'm just looking at stuff all the time.
You know, like I talk about this all the time too with friends. Like think about like, where did you find music before? Where did you find like where was that community that you were going to, or who did you deem an authority?
Great question.
So like, I feel like there's examples that I would bring up of like, I followed a record label. That was a label, a literal label of like, this label, this group of people believes in this band, like there must be something good there.
Absolutely.
It became a little club, like a record club, you know, that you would just like follow the next, like if they signed that band, I was getting the album because I was just going to check it out.
Right.
And you know, and then there would be like a website or a blog or like something, or like some people would think a publication, like an alternative press or Rolling Stone would like, if they give it a good review and you generally like follow and like and agree with them, you don't have to like have them tell you what you like, but if you find yourself agreeing regularly with somebody that listens to a lot of music, then you're just going to keep believing that and just and using that. But like, I just feel like now it's like, where does somebody, like if it's just TikTok or if it's just Instagram,
right? Everyone's just pointing at Anthony Fantano. I think that's it. You know what I mean? I'm like, I don't agree with them. You know,
it's hard to like figure out where to like find the next thing or what, you know what I mean? And like, even then it's like the consistency is off. So I feel like if you find something you like, you're like, how often am I going to find the next thing that they created? Or it's just like an unreliable source anymore.
Sure.
So I don't know. You know, I'm just part of the noise though at this point. I'm just,
and
I'm just throwing my record into the ocean. You know,
don't throw it there. That's where our car batteries go. I think that's a great
chemicals
point.
And plastics go.
You hit me with like a great. Actually, you know what? Before we go too far, I have these cans of live kombucha. We should sip on these too.
We should sip on.
I don't remember which one is which.
I'm kind of like mouth watering looking at.
I know. I'm like sitting there. I was like, my mouth's dry. Let's have a sip real fast. I know one is. These are new. These were unrelated to our overall pitch today, but I saw them. I was like, I like the can art, and one of them sounds like it's Mountain Dew flavored, and I was like, Mountain kombucha sounds great. So anyway, I'll raise a toast to you, Ben.
Yes,
I don't know which one. I actually think mine are out of order.
Cheers.
So cheers, my friend. Oh, damn, it does taste like Mountain Dew. That was a Citrus Rush I got. Did you get that or a cream soda?
I got Citrus Rush.
Okay. I kind of like that. I like that there's this new space developing. I know we were talking off air about the modern soda, but I love this. Like kombucha is obviously also trying to jump in a little bit on that while still maintaining that we're still kombucha.
We're going to call kombucha modern soda.
Yeah, I think
for the sake of this pod.
Yeah, well, you know, it makes my stomach, like you said earlier, like I'm giving my gut a little something nice.
Great.
Yeah, they were both pretty good. The cream soda is kind of funny.
Would get again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Distributed by Live Soda from Los Angeles. All right, Live Soda. Now, we're looking for the sponsorship. Yeah. Put out his album. I really like this. Would you like any more of either? Are you feeling all right?
I'll take some more lime. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Very good. Thank you.
Sorry, I only brought the small tasting cups today. Next time I bring my big boys.
That's all right.
You know, your comment about following the labels, that's a great one. I feel dumb for having not done that well enough early in my musical career,
so?
right? Well, I'm just regretting not doing it now. Where I think it's a great idea. I'm more like, I wish I'd thought of that then. I do it now.
Yeah.
You know, where it's like, especially with a lot of these indie labels who I do think are, it's like this weird thing where half the time I'll find a label where I can tell, okay, you're just kind of throwing everything at the wall and hoping that one of these sticks. And I can't blame them. It's hard to make money now.
Sure.
But I'm trying to think in particular, I really like Top Shelf Records. That's one I've been following a lot in recent times. And I'm like, they're hitting the right amount of like instrumental stuff that I want to listen to, a little like math rocky, whatever that is. And I'm like, and I dove in there through my love of this Japanese band called Toe. And I was like, okay, that's my gateway drug, right? And then I'm like, okay, what else do these guys have? And then they turned me on to so many other cool artists through that. And I'm like, all right, now I'm hitting more post-rock stuff. And you can imagine I listen to so much talking that now I almost don't have lyrics in any of my music because like as soon as I'm not in the studio, I'm just like,
I don't want to hear vocal cords.
Yeah, I'm just like, let me just hear somebody like play something kind of sweet and repetitive, you know?
Yeah. You know, I come from when I started getting really into like being able to, you know, autonomously to like go to the mall and buy records. I was buying like punk records and like pop punk records and stuff. So of course there was like Drive Through and Vagrant and like, and that was the era of compilation albums. And so you would just like get those and just like scan through not only their artists, but other, you know, sort of like friend artists that were. And then then our band benefited from that. You know, we were on compilations and we were the one that was like the odd one out. Like we weren't on that label, but then we got added to a comp. And if you're track 18 of 25, like fast punk songs, and it's just like someone's listening to the whole thing.
For sure.
They're going to listen to track 18. You don't even have to
I
leave.
miss those so much.
I miss that, dude.
Yeah.
I miss just because I feel like, yeah, I found so much stuff through there, you know?
They're trying really hard with like the Spotify playlist thing.
Yeah.
But I personally, first, I don't use Spotify as my music streaming platform, so that's already like ostracized me.
Yeah.
But I almost never listen to the curated playlists outside of whatever like is just my generic like super mix. And so in one of those, I would love to, but then I also think it kind of has the same problem that like even like a 25 track CD, there's a finite number. If I jumped on any one of those Spotify like new music playlists, there's like 4,000 songs.
There's 4,000 songs.
And I also think there's a bit of a thing that I don't know if I've vocalized often on the show, but I do think that as generations go on, right? Like, I mean, I'm in my early 40s now. So it's like that thing where I remember taking music. Music was another art form that you watched directly, or not watched, but you like focused on in the moment, right? You'd put a CD on and you'd listen to it.
Sit there and listen to it.
And I think as music has become more of like a commodity that people just sort of like take a little bit for granted.
I agree with that.
It's just background noise to some.
Yeah.
And anytime I'm hanging out with like my younger friends and they're just putting on stuff in the background, I'm sitting there engaging with it. I'm like, oh, wow, this thing that you like is really cool. Here's what I'm taking from it. They're just like, shut up, nerd.
Yeah.
You know, and then not really, but like at the same time, a little bit like, okay, that's these are just beeps and boops to me, Mark.
Right. Like, well, like one-on-one listening is like for the gym. Like you don't need to, don't be like telling me to shut up while the song is on while we're hanging out. It's just like, yeah, but like it sounds good without headphones on too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to let it fill the room and feel it a different way, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of noise, man, you know, and it's just, it's a constant, I feel like it changes every 6 months. And I just like have stopped kind of like, I hate to say like stop caring about that stuff for the most part, but it's just like I've like ridden through so much of this industry. So like my whole life that like at this point, I hate to say like I'm doing it for me, but really like I felt like I made a successful record and like really loved the artwork I put together for it and really loved the show I curated for it. And just like, that's pretty much all I can kind of control.
That's cool.
And at that point in time, now I'm just like, it exists in perpetuity online. So like, there's no rules anymore. I can talk about it now, even though it came out 3 months ago. It's like, it does not matter.
Yeah.
Someone's going to listen to this. Hopefully just check it out and like, be like, there may be one of those 10 songs is like, oh, that's really rad. Like I'm going to add that to this mood playlist or whatever that I have for myself. It's like an eclectic album. So it's like, it's not just like one, you know, feeling the whole time, but you know, I feel like, there's opportunity for old music to get discovered again, you know.
Yeah.
That's kind of a cool thing with that leveling of the playing field. It's like if you really wanted to just start promoting a record that you put out 10 years ago, like you could just throw some money behind it on Instagram
and then see what happens.
Yeah. Like somebody might find it. It might find legs. Somebody might put it in the background of their video or something like that.
How many
like,
YouTube videos do we get fed that's like, oh, this cult classic piece of media just came back because something like somebody talked about on a podcast. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like that's half my recommendations, and I'm on board for it. So I'm like, I'm 100% here for it. You know, I think about too how one of the very few positives, because I mean, I want to be mean to all the billionaire executives that are ruining art.
Yeah.
But one of the few, I mean, seriously, if the Spotify guy's watching the show, I do not like you, sir. You ruin music. I love music.
Yeah, let's go there.
Well, I will say, so I'll start with the pro and then let's destroy them.
Yeah.
The one
I
pro,
want all hot takes from here on out.
the hottest of takes just for you. The one pro, in my opinion, is that part of the leveling of the playing field is that, you know, a subscription for service at like $10-15 a month is infinitely more affordable than it was to go discover. Because back in the day, I mean, you really, even in the piracy age, if you weren't pirating something popular, it wasn't easily accessible out there, like it would be now, right?
Yeah, it was going to take like 2 days to download.
Yeah, and you're like hoping somebody, like, please, I hope they don't turn their computer off while I'm downloading it.
This. So
dude, you remember those days? I mean, I think about that, and like even on Napster, it was like, if I wanted to download, like, well, I mean, we'll use Metallica as the famous example. It's like, but if I wanted to download that, awesome, I could find that. But if I wanted to find some obscure band that I happen to see it as the opener on some tour, that wasn't happening. And so I think about how easy it is. And I should mention, I only got into the streaming service thing in the last couple of years, like maybe just before COVID, because I was always like, I want to buy the music from the artist. I'm a physical media guy, so I either wanted a physical thing.
I held out for a really long time as well. Like I joined like late. You know? Like I was into iTunes and buying stuff on.
Same.
Like I would buy digital copies of things.
Right, and I thought that was it. I actually still prefer that marketplace mentality. I think that was the healthy one.
Yeah,
and the artist,
like
dude. I mean, I was nobody, and I was still earning 75 cents on every 99 cents I was selling.
Exactly.
So I'm like, that was a good deal for me as the artist, and I think probably for a lot of people. You know, and I just think that how much music I've discovered since I use YouTube Music, or it used to be Google Play or whatever. Yeah. But I love that I'm able to discover stuff. I love that I can see, here's all the week's new releases. And usually on Fridays, I'll just I'll just go through all the new releases and see if there's something I can find.
I don't have a ton of experience with YouTube Music.
I mostly like it. I mean, they're all the same platform ultimately, right?
Yeah.
The big thing is though, so when I worked with my last company, we were a Google partner. So part of the gig was like, all right, I got discounts on a lot of the Google services. Okay, cool. So I started by, and I laugh about this, but I started by doing ad-free YouTube. And I was just like, I'm using all this money I'm earning starring in commercials to never watch them aggressively, right? Sure. So ad-free YouTube. And then they were like, hey, as part of ad-free YouTube, you get our music streaming service too. And you get all these other perks. I was like, oh, that's way worth it. And now I like 90% of my TV time is YouTube based. Yeah. So having that music, it's good. I mean, I still think Spotify probably has a better algorithm because I would wager they have way more invested into it than YouTube probably does.
Just more data probably that they can use to their advantage.
Because it is one, we joke all the time where it's like our super mix is always like, okay, great, these same 100 songs. And it's like, I know I like this artist. Why are you only playing this one song off this album that I know I like?
Yeah. I feel like it has kind of taken a bit of a nosedive recently. Like my and I'm no expert even just from the user standpoint. Like I feel like I used to get presented with kind of newer, interesting things that were like adjacent to the things I was listening to. And now I feel like it's not quite as on point.
Agreed.
So it's just like something's off there in a weird way. Like
I keep going, is music just getting worse? Like, is that what's happening?
Yeah, I don't know. You know, but here's one of the bone I want to pick with the Spotify execs. Here's my hot take.
I love it. I'm heating up, baby.
Is I'm not even able to really like get, I feel like, reliable like updates about the artists I do follow. Like I follow an artist on Spotify and then it'll be like months later, I'll like find out they had an album or a single or something. And I'm like, why was that not presented to me? Yeah. Like on New Music Friday or whatever, like I should be able to go to that artist page and be like you do on YouTube or do on even on Instagram or whatever, be like, notify me when anything new comes out. For sure. Like literally bug me. Like send me a push notification.
I'm asking for the notification.
Yeah, I will stream this and I will stay loyal to your platform if I am like plugged in to every single update from every band that I'm obsessed with.
That's a great point. Yeah, you're making a great point about that. YouTube does an okay job of it. Yeah. In that what it will do is in like the new categories, it does a good job of funneling to my interest. So instead of leading with, unless it's a week where nothing I like came out, right? Sure. So it'll be like, I'm trying to think of a good example, but like last week, Mac Miller put out a posthumous record, right? And so I was like, so then in my lineup, I'm seeing all these new releases. It's like that. It's the new Coheed and Cambria single. And I'm like, okay, I know that not everybody's new releases looks exactly like that. Yeah. I know, So they do a good job of that. But I also agree that, if you're going to annoy me at all with an alert, I'm in for the one. Look, it's like I've said about social media from the onset. I'm like, you're stealing my data to sell me ads. Mm-hmm. Cool. Send me cool ads then. Show me shit I like. Correct. Give me the new Coheed single. It was fine. But give me...
We're complicit in the exchange of this information.
I'm on board.
We're like, it's like, learn me and give me things that I like.
Instagram knows. It's like, Mark likes a lot of lasers in his house. So it's constantly like, do you need another laser projector? I'm like, no, but this one looks cool. Hell yeah. Or I'm kind of a sucker for a good Instagram ad. Okay. They're the only ones I think that hit me right.
I did a lot of Christmas shopping this year based on Instagram like ads that I saved throughout the year. And when it got to like the end of the year, I was like, I'm just going to go through like the like saved like stuff for that category of thing.
That's smart.
And so it was just like, easy. Like, I'm getting that. Well, it was also like a lot of, as soon as I started looking at like baby stuff for like my new nephew, right? It was like I was fed so much stuff. Yeah, you know what I mean?
We got a new wrinkle.
You saved one. Yep. got someone on the hook for that category of business. So like, yeah, but it was cool. Like I honestly like bought like 2 or 3 things like 2 months before Christmas because I just like had them like all 9-10 months backlogged of just random saved ads. I'm cool with ads also, you know what I mean? And I get too, like, I want other people to see my ads.
Exactly.
You know, like, I want it to work. Like I'm okay with it.
Right.
Working.
Like you said, we're complicit in the system. It's like, it just needs to be a good system. Yeah. I love the ads thing. I was doing kind of similar where whenever I'd see something that looked right, I would just like fake order it and put it in the cart.
Yeah.
And then every so often I'm getting updates like, hey, Mark, this one item is running low on stock. And it was like, you know, stickers, sweaters, all kinds of silly stuff. It was just like anytime I was like buying something for her, I'm like, okay, add that to the cart.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean? We'll find out later if it's a problem or not.
Yeah.
And then, but it was great. It was and it's one that I'm like, I'm glad you shared it first because I'm like, yeah, that is honestly, that kind of saved Christmas a little bit this year. You know,
for real.
Power move.
Yeah, there it is.
That's
Cheers.
so funny.
Cheers.
Yes, I'm sorry. I really love them. I'm chugging right through. I was thinking I might lean into something, you know, when we were talking about the show and talking about the album and everything, you had a great pitch. And it was like talking about things that were kind of sunsetting, right? You know, we're like looking in the future. So I'm talking over the last couple of weeks with like buyers. I was like, can we figure this out? And they're like, sometimes.
Yeah.
They're like, but a lot of companies just do that. This is my least favorite thing. And we've seen it a lot in the local restaurant scene where they're just like, by the way, we're out of business as of this Facebook post.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, bro, you couldn't have given us like one more meal service. I would have gone.
Sure.
I would have made the time, you know?
Yeah. But it's like you just go to order that next time and it's like, we stopped making this.
It doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
So I was thinking that with this. So a lot of companies, they'll play it. So, and I guess maybe there's some, I don't know. I'm sure it sucks on both sides, but as the enjoyer, I'm like, I wanted one more chance to enjoy.
Yeah.
So in thinking about all this, that was kind of the run. They're like, I don't really know. So when we started thinking it up, I was like, let me see if I can find any products that maybe went away. I'm a man of hope. I had a weird summer, and I was like, how can I put my little bit of spin on this? And my pitch was, I'm going to find things that left and came back.
Sure.
Because I was kind of like, and because to me, that's like a little bit, that's like, that was my response to the album where I'm like, I love that you're releasing all these things that hadn't seen the light of day.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping, well, I know you're not done creating music either way, but internally I was like, I hope this inspires him to keep doing what he's doing the way he wants to do it.
Thanks, yeah.
And also, because I'm always leading into hope first, I'm just like, well, maybe it'll come back.
Yeah.
So when I was out today, what I was really looking for, I thought about these. You remember Clearly Canadian from our youth?
I do remember those bottles. I wouldn't have been able to assign the
I have no idea what
Clearly
they're gonna
Canadian.
taste.
Or
Yeah,
just
right.
like I
The
just
name.
like I remember very clearly those bottles.
Clearly.
Yeah.
So I brought these down. I was like, well, we should try these because I don't know if they were good or not. I remember having one once as a child.
Yep.
I brought a country raspberry and a country blackberry, but these went away for a long time. I think they maybe didn't go completely away. I have a feeling they just went back to Canada only.
Okay.
But at some point they brought them back in the States, and I was like, well, that's a fun product to start with. I love that they still have the Canadian caps. You know what? I know we had I'll bring out the bigger cups now.
Yeah, let's do it.
Just because I'm like, oh, nobody cares what the kombucha looks like. It's clear, it's Canadian. I'll bust into the raspberry first, and we'll move into that. We'll try both and see what's up. I'm imagining this is also one of those. It's not soda, but it's soda. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it smells like smells like the way I described it.
Does it smell like artificial sweetener?
It's got at least a little hint of it.
I tried something like a low calorie something or other seltzer thing, and it was just stevia. That's all it was. It was just water. It was bubbly water with stevia in it.
And I don't hate the stevia as much as a lot of people, but I totally taste it too. And I'm always like, but I think I
didn't really care. It was just like, this is just stevia though. Like,
right. Well, I think a lot of people aren't trying. What do they put? This one has cane sugar, so this is real.
Hey,
so here,
cheers.
It's a caloric gain.
Okay, great.
Tastes Canadian.
If that's what Canada tastes like, I'm on board.
I should have chilled it then. You know what? That's not bad. Let me see here. Bottled under the authority of they're still doing this out of Toronto. That's crazy. That's actually kind of cool. You know, a little bit this year. Yeah. I know I joked earlier. I was like, I'm always trying to be apolitical on everything. I am generally because, not that I don't care.
I think you care.
I do. I care about humans, but like all the other stuff, I'm just like, I'm not going to post about this. Yeah. But One of the only things I've been a little curious about the current administration is I've always been an anti-dyes guy, at least in like my adult life.
Sure.
So I'm curious about all of like the extra chemicals and all the stuff that's been added to some American foods.
Yeah.
So I know I said at the intro of the show, I'm like, I am still looking for people to talk about that because I'm like, okay, maybe there's something here. I don't know, but I'm no scientist and I'm curious. I'm just curious. I'm hoping I can meet a couple of crackpots and a couple of real people and talk to all of them about this. But I do find it interesting that since I've started working at Jungle Gyms and not buying like any of the junk food I buy now is like European or international in general.
Interesting.
But like blood pressure's down, cholesterol's and weight. It wasn't bad before, but it's like one of those things where I'm like, I know I haven't been depriving myself here. These numbers should all be up. I'm getting older. You know what I mean? I know I walk a ton here, but it was one of those things that in a recent checkup, I was kind of like, that's weird because I know I'm not making necessarily what on paper would be better dietary decisions.
Yeah. Or like you didn't do anything like significant.
Right.
Like significant change.
Yeah.
Like
it's
not
like,
eating sweets anymore or something. And then you're like, okay, well, yeah.
It makes sense. Yeah. This was like, no, I still occasionally eat sweets. I'm a quantity fat person. That's usually my thing. I usually eat pretty clean. But it was funny to find now that I'm doing like all Amish raised chicken with no, antibiotics, right? And it's like the meat I'm buying like either international meats or whatever.
Yeah.
And then a lot of the box and bag stuff I buy international too. And when you look at the ingredients, I'm looking at this one, for example, carbonated spring water, cane sugar, natural flavor, citric acid. That's it. And I guarantee the kombucha is probably not a good example. Yeah, the kombucha is not a good example. It also looks like European. But, if you look at a bottle of Coke, for example, right?
Yeah.
You're going to look at this and be like, okay, there's all kinds of shit in there and I have no idea what it is.
Yeah,
So
for sure.
there is like a thing where I'm like, oh, I hate to agree with people that don't always agree with me, but I'm curious to see if maybe this might be one of the this is the barrier to entry is better moments. This is the Soul Pro.
Yeah. The Canadian water has less ingredients in it. But I was going to say, I think it kind of like, I'm generally a little cynical about just like the healthcare industry.
Oh, for sure.
And the FDA and just the food industry, like I just like generally I'm kind of like, it just seems like such a huge thing to try to control.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, you know what I mean? Like certain things are just always going to slip through the gaps and like, there's going to be somebody weaseling around a law or there's going to be, you know what I mean? I don't know. Just
it's the nature of it being an industry, right?
Yeah.
And rather than being like a health focused governing thing,
Yeah.
I know that's like me maybe arguing semantics a little bit, but I'm like, if you're getting paid, it kind of invites some scrutiny, especially in healthcare, in my opinion. You know?
Yeah. But at the same time, you got to think like, but there are people who have been watchdogging this forever and creating systems to try to. I mean, how do we feed this many millions of people? Like it's just like you have to have preservatives, you have to have things, you know what I mean? You have to be able to like produce as much stuff. Yeah, I am no expert at all.
Of course, I love it. I'm glad. I'm happy to have the conversation though. It's cool, but these are opinions. It's okay.
Yeah, just I understand that like other countries probably have stricter things and maybe not in other ways too. You know what I mean? So
That's
it probably
a great point.
goes both ways. You know.
Well, you made a really good point about the quantity of people and that the nature of the United States being multiple. Right. I mean, it's like it's its own thing where you are providing for so many more people at once.
Sure.
Sorry, I picked all of the most carbonated things today for the show.
Yeah, I've been like disguising my burps as well.
I think about that. It's like, I imagine how many people are in, the UK for example, or not even just in Britain, right? You're like, oh, this is a state.
Yeah.
So maybe I imagine at a certain point, maybe it would be easier to manage it on a small end. But then I kind of think about, is that maybe how we should go back as a place? One of the things that has bummed me out a lot as a traveler in the United States is that everything got so homogenized in the last 25 years where it's like, sometimes when I go to a different town, I'm just like, did I go anywhere?
Yeah.
Right. Oh, okay, there's mountains back there. That's the tell kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So then there's that part of me that's like, well, maybe we can move back to this. And then you get a little more like local flavor, a little more local color. And then when you go to, what's Indiana known for? I don't know. Racism? Yes, I'll have your pork tenderloin.
I was going to say a tenderloin and cornfields. We have them too.
I'm so sorry, Indiana residents. It's a joke. Don't get too mad. I mean, but if you're mad, maybe do something about it.
My whole family's from Indiana. So
perfect. And that guy's...
Yeah.
So they're all...
Those are my people.
I always love making jokes like that too. And then we did one about how West Virginia wasn't real the other day on a TikTok, and people were so mad. And I was like doing it in a silly voice. Yeah. Like it was one of those, I'm like, how are you taking anything I said here seriously? But that's because West Virginia is not real, and they were just mad to find that I announced it.
Yeah, you exposed their secret. Like X-Files. Yeah, so I also think, and I echo that sentiment about traveling and like going to another city or like going to another region, and I want to have the thing that they're kind of known for. You know what I mean? Like I love that idea. You know, you have the food that is kind of like popularized in that area. Proud that I grew up in Cincinnati and I love Cincinnati chili, and I love that debate of people traveling in and being like, what is this?
Right.
Like I love that. I think that about other cuisines in other areas. You know what I mean? I go there and I'm just like, what? Why would you have 2 pieces of bread and a giant like breaded, you know? So I appreciate that diversity in that sense, you know. But yeah, maybe we can restrict whether or not you're able to have like avocados out of season, you know, and things like that kind of thing, you know?
Right. I mean, it is that like sort of, you know, and obviously one of the things I love about here is seeing that. But, you know, when I would talk to some of like the old, like I say old produce guys, as in like the older men that were, you know, because Jungles, we're hitting our 50th anniversary this year, right? Yeah. So you're meeting dudes who've been like, I've been in the produce game for 45 years. I'm like, oh my God, are you okay? And no, but we talk to these old guys and they talk about like the just stuff that you didn't think about, where they're like, you know, pineapples weren't readily available in the United States until like 40 years ago, right? Kind of a thing. You're like, yeah, I never thought about that because it would have been a pain in the ass to ship, refrigeration, like just even like little advances in like the way we transport goods now. 20 years ago, different, right? So I even thinking back then, because I remember one guy, and I cannot remember the real year, so I'm exaggerating probably a little bit, but the pineapple one was the one that stuck with me. He was like, yeah, for a hot minute, it was like Hawaii, California, maybe you got it in Florida, and then Cincinnati, Ohio at Jungle Gyms. I'm like, that's so insane to me.
That is crazy.
But now you could buy pineapple every day, all year round.
Yeah.
It might suffer a little bit in the winter months, but not that much, you know?
Yeah.
Crazy to think about, isn't it?
That is crazy to think about. Yeah, never really thought about that.
It's a weird world. Yeah. I never thought
sure
about it
is.
too. I'm like, they paid me to think about it, which helped. I'd love to get a real date on that too, because, you know, it was just one of those, like, you know, I always love being like, what was it like before now?
Yeah.
You know, they're just telling you the way things used to be, and it's like, they drove all these refrigerated produce trucks down to pretty much Union Terminal-ish area, right? And then they would go down there with their own trucks, load them up and go. And now it's like, all right, no, everything just comes on a semi and it just drives in, right? It's kind of a bummer a little bit where you're like, I get it. It made it easier for large quantities.
Yeah.
But I love that era of, I don't know, I'm still like you know, like I said, I'm a physical media guy. I like getting my hands on things. So I feel like there's a little of that is lost in the modern age.
Yeah.
You know?
I like that. You have to seek it where you think the less you are able to have something, the more you appreciate it at the times that you are able to have it.
For sure.
You know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. Let's make a music parallel there or something.
That's kind of well, I mean, that was actually where I was about to go, where I'm like, and then there's one of the drawbacks of modern streaming to me, which is that because it's of everywhere. Because right now, if I was like, hey, what's that random song, blah, 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 it would play instantly.
Exactly.
When I was a kid, I'd have to be like, okay, who did this? Okay, who is this person? All right, they were in this band, but they released a solo album.
And somebody's going to tell you, like, the next time you're at a record store, try to find this one band, because, like, you didn't know that guitar player was in that band to start out.
Exactly.
And you'd be like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, I'm going to, like, seek that out, you know?
Yeah.
It was like a treasure hunt, you know.
It really was.
I feel like part of that is fun, and like, you know, just like doom scrolling isn't the same kind of treasure hunt. You know what I mean?
I think that's why vinyl's had a resurgence a little bit, and why record stores are doing really well. Yeah. And we've got a really cool one down the street called Three Feathers. It's very close by. I just walk in sometimes. It's a cool little spot, simple spot. The couple of the guys that, or at least the last time I was in there, they may still run it too, but they were in a local band too. Something in the Dravens. Damn, it's going to drive me crazy. I feel bad for not remembering. But they all are lovely people.
It just
but
reminds me of The Crow.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It can't rain all the time. You know? I'm pulling heroin out of people's arms. I love that movie. There was that one. One I've been spending a lot of time at recently is called Hey Suburbia Records. It's up in Mason. It's a small shop there, but they are the Midwest's largest supplier of Japanese imports. So they have not just Japanese music, but I mean, I love city pop. So I'm like, if I'm going to put something in the background, it will be some instrumental grooves like that. But they also have a lot of cool Japanese pressings of American bands. So I was able to get like all these pieces that I've been looking for.
Cool.
And then I was like, oh, and I get a Japanese pressing. So I get the cool Japanese artwork.
Yeah. Like and a different bonus track, live version.
Exactly.
Demo,
usually like something like that.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, I mean, I don't think this goes as a surprise to anyone. Japanese engineers, kind of killer. And like I have like back-to-back pressings where I'm listening to like an original pressing from the US one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, all right, am I an asshole or does this actually sound better? And then you put it on, you're like, oh yeah, there's just something to the quality of the pressing they did, which is just a little extra warmth. Not a ton, you know, but you can imagine I invested a little bit in my setup, so enough so I could make this comment now.
Yeah.
Crazy to think
I trust
about.
You can hear the difference.
But like, I love going
especially
into the store
back to back.
Oh, dude.
You know, if you're just listening to like a suitcase record player, you know, that kind of thing, not going to be able to hear it. But like any system where you have like decent set of speakers and a decent needle, like I'm sure you could probably tell the difference between. Also, like there's a quality of the actual material too. You know what I mean? Some of those I didn't really get that when I was younger.
Same.
Like it would be like, why am I paying like for the heavy one?
Yeah.
Like I like literally just thought like, ew, it's heavy.
Right.
Like,
you're like, are they charging more because there's just more
I was
product?
just like, I don't care about that.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, oh, I get it. Yeah, it sounds way better.
And I'm always impressed with the Japanese ones because they're not as heavy. So they're like they feel like, I hate to say it this way, but like shitty 70s American records, right? Where you're like, oh, these are kind of like throwaway a little bit because I don't think there was probably not as much environmental oh my God. You know what I'm saying? Trying to save the planet.
Yeah.
Less of that. So they were just like, just throw it out and make another one.
Yeah.
But I felt like it cracks me up every time. And I'm sure I look like a lunatic in the house because if I'm listening with anybody, I'm sure they're like, yeah, Mark, I'm sure it sounds different. I'm like, it does.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, like the quantity of records being pressed like in the 70s was like, so like you didn't press anything. Like there was no short run. I feel like it was like,
True.
I mean, we recently watched, my wife had never seen That Thing You Do.
Yeah.
And so it was
she
like,
love it?
Oh yeah, I loved it. Dude, it's so good.
So good.
One of my favorites. And so we watched that and it was like they made their little 7-inch or whatever, their 45.
Yeah.
Their single. And they had like thousands of them, you know, at that first show. They were like, we got our single. And it was like, it's because you probably couldn't just get like an order of 500.
Right. They were like, we do 12 million or nothing.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, not to say that was expensive or anything, but it just seems like, when they pressed Fleetwood Mac, they made 4 billion rumors. They just didn't, there was no in between.
But thankfully, so did the band, right?
Yeah. Hee.
I know. Every time I think of that record, I always think there's a bit about that on like one of the first Flight of the Conchords episodes. And they're talking about something. He's like, Fleetwood Mac had that really big album. And then one of them is like, rumors. He goes, no, all true. Yeah. I was like, God damn. Oh, so good.
I've been jonesing to rewatch that because I like haven't seen it since it was like on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember being good, but it's one of those one jokes that stuck in there.
We just recently finished, What We Do in the Shadows, and it kind of made me like
so good.
Kind of just jones for like some.
Yeah. Little Kiwi humor.
Yeah, exactly.
On the That Thing You Do, I meant to ask this, even though it's not related at all. Have you ever seen like the extended cut that they did of that? Dude, it has like an extra hour of footage.
What?
It's crazy. Like the whole opening of the movie is completely different.
Okay, well,
you spend like 30 minutes with Guy before you even. I would say if you're a fan of the movie, I didn't know it existed until like 2 or 3 years ago, and I just watched it for the first time.
Okay, yeah, I have to see that.
It's great.
I have to see that.
It's definitely like I see why they cut it, if that makes sense, because I think That Thing You Do is kind of like a perfect little movie.
Yeah,
like,
it's just honestly pretty perfect.
Yeah,
like you go through all the stages. You don't feel rushed through it.
No.
The
pacing's awesome. You learn about everybody,
Yeah.
The director's cut's cool. You get a little more Guy in there.
Dang.
I love him. Yeah. And I'm always bummed that he wasn't a bigger star.
Right.
Like I was just like, oh, what? And it's one of those things.
It was
right?
that and like
I'm
American
sure he's
Werewolf.
Bummed too.
And then there was like, that was it. Yeah.
He did that one movie with Zach Morris where they were trying to kill their college roommate.
That's
I can't
right.
remember the name of it.
Yeah.
But I remember liking that when I was 17, so I'm sure it's good.
Yeah. So 3. He's got 3 under.
Yeah. I'm sure he's been another thing since too. I'm such a nerd that right after, at the same time I was watching that, I was doing like a rewatch of like the Justice League animated series because it just hit Max or one of those, and he was a guest voice in an episode. And one of my favorite characters too. I was kind of like, oh, that I am glad you got a little extra work too. And
Sure.
I was like, oh, that's like well, at the time, like that was kind of a deep cut to show up as Booster Gold, but he was great. And anyway, Thomas Everett Scott, if you're out there watching this,
I didn't know his name, and we were watching the movie, and I think his name is like high on the post. It's like
yeah.
And they were, he's the star of the movie.
Sure.
And other than like obviously Tom Hanks is getting you in there,
right?
And like, can't think of her name.
Liv Tyler.
Liv Tyler.
And
but
I
don't know
always
that
forget
she was
Charlize Theron is Guy's first girlfriend. That always blows my mind.
But I don't know that Liv Tyler was popular enough then to like be like top of the poster.
I think she'd only really done like Empire Records at that point. I feel like it's right around that same time.
Yeah, it had to be the same time.
That's crazy to think about. I loved the 90s.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah. Well,
we're here now.
Well, they're gone.
Locked in. Yeah, exactly. Fleeting as always. Oh my gosh. Hey, you know what? I know we're getting long in the tooth here. I'll go through a couple ones. I won't eat this because I totally forgot about the dairy thing. But I will talk about this briefly. This is another product that disappeared for a while and came back. Yeah. I just think the lady that owns it, she's very cool and very inspiring. Her name's Stephanie Stuckey. So back in the day, Stuckey's were like a roadside stand. If you're road tripping, I remember seeing them my whole youth road tripping.
Okay.
I never had been to one. Just because
it kind of sounds familiar, but
it's like one, I think if you saw the yellow brand, like this packaging does not have the yellow branding on it. It has like the old classic branding, which I also like. But,
yeah, that's cool.
You might recognize the sign because it was one, as soon as I saw it come back, I was like, oh, I remember this. I'm sorry, I've never been to your store, but the whole thing was like the brand it was a family owned brand. At some point they sold off, and I may be telling some of this story wrong. I'm sorry, Stephanie. I do love you, and we'll have you here one of these days. I missed her the last time she was in here because I was hurt, and I was like,
do your research.
I know. Right. Exactly before I just ramble. I'm like, it's fine. Someone will just leave me a mean comment to tell me I'm an idiot and fat. I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't own a mirror anymore. But anyway, they had these like pecan log rolls, all kinds of other fun stuff, like old timey snacks. And then Stephanie bought the company back from whoever had owned it. And kind of, these are not her words. I don't think the company feels this way, but as an outsider, I'm like, whoever that other company was completely ran it into the ground to the point that they were like all but gone.
Okay.
And in the last, I think she bought it back maybe 10-ish years ago, completely revitalized it. Now it's back in like stores like Jungle Gyms and back all over the place. Cool. And they're thriving. And she's like such a cool success story. She's, I think, the granddaughter of the original owner, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I love a story like that, right? Yeah. Again, it comes back to that hope where it's like, I imagine for her, she grew up around this and then it went away. And you probably have those nostalgia pangs like I know I do for the 90s all the time. And she's probably like, remember when this used to be great? I can make this.
Yeah, there's so much stuff. I was actually thinking about that for the sake of talking about, or we're at Jungle Gyms. So I'm thinking about foods from like the past or foods from my life that like I know for sure like I can't have any like that went out of, commission. And I was thinking about how I loved like Crystal Pepsi. Oh yeah. And stuff that like I would seriously still buy it right now if it existed. But like there's more I was thinking about it. My mom bought those Kudos bars.
Oh yeah.
Remember that?
Yep.
And like I didn't when I remembered that they existed, I immediately was like, God, I wish I could grab that the next time I'm at the store. Like there's stuff that was just like so ingrained in my youth, you know what I mean? That I would still eat today if I could.
I get fed those videos. Somebody's like 10 items you wish still existed. Yeah. This is watchmojo.com.
Yeah.
My friend Nate did a great video on it and he picked a bunch, but he brought up the Kudos bars. And I think in particular, he was like the M&M ones were his favorite. Okay. And I kept thinking, I was like, damn, I don't think I tried Kudos bars, but I was like, I don't think I had the M&M one ever.
Yeah.
That was one. What's one I always see, but I never tried back. They were PB Crisps. Planners made like the little peanut butter cookies. I never tried them, but everybody seems fired up about it.
I never really like, I think I've had those, but I never really had like a connection to them, like or nostalgia, like draw to them. But there was a thing that I had to look up years ago because I was trying to describe it to people. Yeah. I remember I was on this family vacation and we would go down to 7-Eleven, which was a novel thing, that like there was like a 24-hour like convenience store down the street from this hotel we were staying in.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I was like 7. I was really young.
Yeah.
And so of course it was like every time we kind of wandered down there to get like snacks or something, like I went up and down the aisle and like grabbed something, and I grabbed something that I now know to be called PB Max.
Okay.
Or PB Max, I think it was what's called.
Yeah, I think I can kind of visualize the packaging.
Yeah, it's like a square thing, like filled with like peanut butter, maybe has some crunchy element to it or whatever, covered in chocolate. It's like not really anything like super like crazy. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's just like a peanut butter snack thing. Sure. But like I loved it the first time I ever had it. And like every time we went for that whole week in Florida, I was like, I kept getting one every single, and then it like is burned into my brain. Like I don't think I even had them after that vacation. I just loved them then and only then. And I was obsessed with them. And then like, you know, it was like one of those things somebody was talking about, peanut butter, something like this candy that had, you know, this, that, or the other. And I was like, you're bringing up this weird memory. Like I started to like glitch out and just be like, holy crap, there was this thing that and I was like searching peanut butter candy, blah, blah, blah. And it took me a while. Now it's on all the lists of like forgotten candies.
Of course.
Now like BuzzFeed has it on every list now. But like,
that's cracked me up so much.
But for a minute, like I had to like scour the internet to try to find evidence that a thing like this, it was probably like on Reddit or something. Somebody was like, yo, does anybody else remember this? You know? And it took me like pages of Google to like find this thing.
And then and then staring in the face.
Now it's like, there. Now it's all over the internet. But
but
yeah, dude. So those other ones, I got something from Trader Joe's. Am I allowed to mention other businesses in here? I got something from Trader Joe's.
We'll send you a bill.
And it was deceiving because it was like a coated peanut thing, and I just imagined peanut butter being in it, being sweet, and it even said like sweet and salty, crunchy, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, these sound, and I think I was having an association with the one you mentioned. Yeah. The Planters thing. Yeah. Like as like more of a candy treat kind of thing. And no, it was just literally like a coated peanut, and it was not sweet and it was not salty. It was nothing. It was nothing as advertised. It was the worst snack.
See, now you can definitely mention them.
Yeah. Now I'll get a royalty.
Yeah, exactly. Like they'll be banning us from the store now. Oh my God, that's so funny. That is crazy to think about. And one of my loose pitches here, and I think we just don't have the person power to really make this happen on a regular basis. But I won't reveal all my secrets, but I want to bring back some of those products, right? Because I see I was inspired. My friend Christian forever ago reached out to me. It was just like, Mark, if I can find this thing, it's going to be at Jungle Gyms. But if it's gone forever,
I'm dying to know what it is.
And it was like I think it was a Little Debbie thing.
Okay.
And I cannot remember the name of it now. I'm sorry, Christian. But it was like a banana cake treat. Okay. And I cannot remember the name of it. If I look at the messages, I'll find it. But I kept thinking, I was like, what if we just did a run of nostalgic baked goods? Because we could find these copycat recipes online and probably just do short run, Obviously, some of the bigger ones would be hard. Like I probably couldn't easily bring back Kudos. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I always love it. I was like, is Santino hanging out here? No. But
can they hear us out there?
No, not today. I didn't turn it on just in case. Yeah, but it depends. Like honestly, 9 out of 10 times, the only time I'll do it is if it's like, because I knew we'd be real if I have like a big brand in here, because I know they're going to be super safe. And not that we're not safe, but I think I called someone an asshole already, and I'd hate for to broadcast that. Sure. Yeah. I'll just do it on the internet so you purposely listen to it. Yeah, right. But it'll broadcast. It will in here, in part of Cookwares, and in the parking lot. So I usually just like to occasionally DJ a little good music in here instead, which has been fun. But I totally lost my train of thought. I got so caught up seeing. So I was like,
Christian
wait,
and the short run.
So anyway, I just thought it'd be fun to do like short run kind of FOMO style things. Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe that'll still happen. I'm still working on it because nobody thought it was a bad idea, which was cool. But it was kind of like, well, more of a how do we do this? Yeah. But I think that would be a cool thing for us in general to be like, hey, do you remember this product? Well, it's not exactly the same, but it's kind of close. Right. And it's based on the recipe that somebody leaked on the internet, Yeah. And I think if I don't call it the same thing,
So there was this is my thing that I miss, that is a recent thing, not like a nostalgic whatever, but there was a vegan mac and cheese.
Okay.
That I love, like my wife and I loved so much. Like we'd buy it every single time we went to the store. And they just stopped, you know what I mean? And I was like Googling like can somebody crack like this code of how they created this like powder? Because I would just make that at home. Or like, what's the general like proportion here? Is it like how much nutritional yeast to how much whatever, like whatever it is? Because like it's can't be that complicated, but like whatever their like specific formula was so good.
That's awesome.
And it was like the white cheddar kind. That's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just
even better. Probably doesn't have dyes in it. And back to I'm getting hyped.
Yes. So like, and it was, so the brand's called Modern Table. It doesn't exist anymore.
Like the brand across the border, just the vegan mac.
I'm pretty sure that does not a company anymore.
Oh, like I should look and see I wonder if any of those people, it's kind of one of the fun things about the food industry that I feel is similar to like the video game industry more than anything, is that like when a brand ends, they all scatter and go to different ones, and then they take their favorite products and try to bring them back. So I'm now wondering if anyone from Modern Tables out there, I'll post on LinkedIn about this too and just see. Yeah. And just because maybe someone's got to be making something
white
close
cheddar
to
vegan mac was legit.
That sounds cool.
Because I'm very so I've been vegan for 20 years.
Okay.
And I've tried all the things. You know what I mean? And so I feel like, but you talk to two different people who don't eat dairy, and like they like one kind of like mock cheese versus another one or whatever. I mean, I grew up not vegan, so like I have a penchant for like Skyline with cheese on top, or like pizza, all that stuff. Like I don't completely avoid the idea of the thing because I just have a taste for it. But someone will like this, someone like that, and like there's so many of them out there. Like these like craft copies in the like non-dairy world, but but I just can't get into any of them. There's something wrong with every single one. I don't like them all, any of them at all. Like I just can't get into it. I like
that's kind of how I feel about non-vegan boxed mac though. So I think we've kindred spirits.
I think it's just bad food.
Yeah, we're kind of like very processed, weird. Yeah, exactly.
But I will say, local plug,
please.
The Mac at Harmony downtown. Have you ever had that?
No, I know of Harmony, but I haven't been.
It's kind of more of a natural. It doesn't really have that sharp like bite to it. It's kind of just like it's probably made out of like sweet potatoes or something, you know what I mean? But that sounds good. Their mac is really good at Harmony.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. Because I was going to say, I was like, I'm often curious. I obviously know nutritional yeast shows up often in a lot of cheese and cheese.
Yeah, that's things. Like the thing. That's
right. A little nouge, you know? And I'm like, but I always wonder, I'm like, what else goes in here? Because I know it can't just be nutritional yeast and like, water, to thicken it up
after
or something.
a while. Yeah. And I mean, I'm like also sensitive to that. Like we make recipes at home sometimes, or like I'll have something and I'm like, this is just nutritional yeast. Like the stevia thing.
Exactly.
This is just stevia. Like this is just yeast. Like I can't there's gotta be more to eat than that. Cause it's just, but like if it tastes too cheesy, I don't like that. Like I don't know, I'm kind of particular in that way. But
I mean that's how you should be. I think in general, there's nothing wrong with opinions, in my opinion.
Yeah, sure. I mean, like that's the other thing too, is like people are always like asking me about like having to avoid certain things or having to like navigate menus and having to do all these things, and I'm always like, I mean, I know people who are just like, nah, man, I don't like strawberries or something.
Yeah.
No one bats an eye. But if I'm like, go to the party and I say like, I can't eat that because I don't like dairy. It's just like, what? What do you even eat? And I'm like, so much, dude. I eat too much. Yeah. Like you don't understand. Like I need to chill on food half the time. Cause I just like, there's no end. I have to be like, we make pizzas at home, and I make my own pizza and my wife makes her own. And then I eat my pizza, and then I go like, you want to split another pizza? She's like, we've had enough pizza. Like I eat a lot of food. Yeah. So like people just think I'm wanting all the time to, I'm just like,
you're like, oh, well, you don't have these. What's so funny to me about it more than anything is that when you really think about it, I feel like it's like shows the limitations of how we view as like non-vegans view our menu, which are like, you can't have meat or cheese. Yeah. I mean, obviously there's more than that, right?
Sure, yeah.
But like the response of being like, well, what do you eat? And I'm like, bro, what do you eat? Yeah. There's like vegetables and fruits and all kinds of other stuff that you can eat all the time. I mean, legumes, there's rice, there's so many things out there. You know? I always thought that was such a funny response. And like, don't get me wrong, I've been a shitty 19 to 25-year-old in my life. I'm like, what do you eat? But like,
I made fun of everybody that I knew that like that first was dipping their toes into not eating meat and dairy and like kind of being like, yeah, I'm just going to eat like vegetables, or I'm just going to like, and then I finally heard the term vegan from people like we would either be on tour with or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just remember we were just roasting them all the time. You know what I mean? Like, and this is a funny thing, but just like you're a bunch of dudes traveling around in a van and, you know, like everyone is farting all the time.
For sure.
That's just 6 guys in a van. Just,
it's going to happen. Hope the windows
it's
work.
nothing but farts, you know? And so it's like, of course, the vegan guy who's doing merch will fart and everybody's like, oh God, dude, it's your diet. Dude, your diet is so great. I'm like, we all stink. Like the vegan fart isn't any different, but like we took every opportunity to just roast, you know, like what the different guy, you know, and now I'm the different guy. So it's funny.
I think one of those, again, a net positive is I think that because there is access to things like social media, so we're meeting people that are different from us kind of all the time.
Sure.
I'm hoping, I'm sort of seeing it a little bit, at least here too. You know, we have a pretty huge vegan selection as far as like, you know, pre-made stuff too.
There's stuff at Jungles that I can't get at other stores. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's cool.
So,
I love hearing that. I love that we have the options, and that's kind of how I view it. I'm just like, I don't know. I mean, again, I'm sure at some point.
I'll take some more Canadian.
Yes, please.
Seltzer.
You got to try the other flavor. This is Mountain Blackberry. Do it to it. Ooh, fill her up.
Thank you.
Yeah, actually, the longer I sip on this, the more I'm like, oh, I actually do kind of mess with this a little bit in that it's like got the real, again, you can taste like that real sugar. It doesn't taste like sugar, but it tastes sweetened. I do believe that these are real fruits that are getting used in here. Mm-hmm. And weirdly enough, the water does taste kind of oddly crisp too. So I'm like,
it's better. They're doing it better.
The Canadians know what's up, dude. You know, funny. I brought these to make some TikToks with, but we got them this week. It was like Canadian Oreos, and I think over there they don't label it as Nabisco. It's another company like Melanie or something. I'm sure it's still part of the conglomerate, right?
Oh, okay.
But just even looking at the packaging on that and reading what goes in them, I was like, oh, there's a lot less stuff in this. Okay. So I'm kind of curious. They of course did a maple flavored one, but I can't wait. I can't taste it until I do the shoot.
Sure.
Oh, which reminds me.
But can I taste it before the show?
Yeah, please. Yeah, because they are vegan, right?
I think they are secretly vegan.
We'll find out, yeah. That was one of those. Like, do you know Oreos are vegan? I'm like, yeah, dude, I don't need to just eat cookies. Are you out of your mind?
Yeah, let's say.
This was one. Do you remember these when these were Altoids Sours from way back when?
So, yeah, I remember the Altoid, like, branched out and did, like, fruit stuff and sour stuff. Yeah.
People were so mad about this for so long.
Why?
How do you open it? Because they just went away. Because they were like overnight. Would you like to try one? Are you a sour candy guy at all?
Sure, yeah. I thought you were gonna say they were mad that they existed. Like,
oh no, I think people went crazy for these, and then they went away. They are pretty sour though, right? I'm already puckering before I taste it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Celebrating the classics, retro sours, and there's a similar 10.
I dig it. Is this? Do you remember enough to know if this compares to the Altoids
What's funny
sour?
is I actually remember them being less sour.
Okay.
But I have this whole thing where I think in recent years, sour things are way less sour than they used to be.
Really?
Yeah, because I remember like Sour Patch Kids.
Tarts and...
Yeah, and right, I don't even think they make Shock Tarts. Oh, God, I loved those.
Yeah, they don't make that anymore?
I don't think so.
Oh, damn.
Damn, that's one. I know, right? I'm like, oh.
Modern Table, Shock Tart. Figure it out.
And
we gotta find all these
paying
things.
for it. I do think these are good. They taste right. They had... The one I don't remember, we have 3 flavors. So these all sold out. I was all excited to get these. So thankfully we had one more backup tin because we just got these in like a week or 2 ago.
And they sold out?
Yeah, dude, they're like gone. Because people have been that clamor. It was one of those where I think we underestimated the popularity of these coming back.
Oh.
But they had 3 flavors. I know one's just labeled as citrus. There's the mango that we had today. And I think the other one was maybe berry. But don't quote me on that one because I can't remember. But the mango's great. The citrus is great too, even though they should just call it lemon because it's just lemon flavored.
I wonder if this podcast is now just sucking noises from my mouth.
I hope so. Yeah, it's like just secret ASMR. Today I'm here with Benjamin James Howard, and you can listen to it clink on my teeth. Well, we can do that. That'll be our next show.
I'll probably get more popular doing that than I have with my music.
I think about it all the time, and it's why I don't do it because I know deep down it would. It's like I'd love to be wealthy. I'd love to own a building before I die. I don't think it's going to happen, but there is that part of me that I think it would absolutely crush my soul. Like, as much as they're like, yeah, but Mark, you have a private jet now, and I'm like, I didn't really want that. I just wanted you to love my actual art. You know what I mean? I wanted you to love me.
So when we say own a building, are we talking like
a house would be cool?
Oh,
I
was imagining like Wayne Enterprises Tower. Like,
you
want to own a building.
So
I was like, damn.
I don't know what we'd make there besides like bad decisions.
You're being big. You make sour candies.
Yeah, exactly. That would be my retro business thing where I'm like, listen, it's all FOMO based. We do really short runs. That way, if it doesn't sell, it's not a huge problem. But if it does sell, we know next time make a few more.
Yeah.
That would be a cool business. But no, I just meant like a house. I don't really want the responsibility of owning a house. That's like been a big driver of me not doing it.
Yeah. It's
right.
It's
I saw someone's basement flooded this morning on Facebook. I was like, yeah, guess what? If that happens, I just call the guy that owns the building and he fixes it.
Yeah.
I have like one of the only good landlords according to the internet. So I'm like.
Meaning they like answer your calls and emails and texts?
Dude, all the time. Like he's the type of guy, they have like 200 some properties and he has a ton of employees. Like he's like the owner, right? And he's like kind of hands off. I didn't see him this year, but I didn't see who did it at all this year. But last year when we had a big snowstorm, I walk outside and I'm like, Mehdi, why are you shoveling my walkway? He's like, I like to work. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. But you have a lot of employees that I think are not in their mid to late 60s that probably could do this without me being like, guy. Should I watch out? I had a fridge fail on me last February and it maybe took 24 hours to have a replacement brand new fridge put in there. It was crazy. He's like that kind of guy.
Nice. My last landlord, I had that stereotypical thing happen where, this is landlord talk with Mark and Ben.
I'm ready. Today on the show,
there was like some infestation of bugs and stuff, like the termites or something, and like the garage door stopped working, and there was like a couple of things kind of had piled up.
Yeah,
and it was just like, hey man, like, we need to fix all this stuff. Like the window well where my cat like takes a nap is just like infested with termites and this, it's just like all that kind of stuff. It was like reasonable things to like fix. Yeah. And they refused. And so we're like, shitty. Cool, we're out. We're just going to leave like next month. Like this is my notice. And so what do? They replace the garage door and, like basically it was like, the week we were moving out, I'm getting a call like, hey, what time could I come over to like, because I got to let the guy in to do this repair or do this, whatever. Right. And I was like, you asshole.
Yeah, exactly.
You couldn't fix it for me to just stay here. And I've lived here for like 2 or 3 years. Right. You were going to like, dig your heels in. And then as soon as I'm leaving now, you realize that you can't rent it to someone else with a termite infestation and a broken garage door. So now you're going to fix it right before I leave.
That's so shitty.
That was the last. So you have a good one, man.
Yeah, he really is good. And like his whole, and it's like him and his, again, it's another family owned business. I think there's just something about that, right? Because his sons are involved now.
Yeah.
And it's great, but it's been one of those things that like, I've lived there since, 2017 probably. And I love the space. I was the first tenant in this place because he just like renovated an old Covington building. Okay. So it's like, it feels like my place more than anything, but it was so funny because like, during 2020 and everyone's like, fuck the system, fuck all the landlords. And I'm just like, no, I mean, mine's pretty cool, dude. He just like sent me a gift card. You know what I mean? Like they were those types of people where they were like, hey, we know you're struggling. Dude, like for real, like,
wow, that's awesome.
I'm pretty sure he bought my record player, like the one I'm listening to now, because like I was like doing that thing. I'll just throw this out there. If any of you are looking for an affordable apartment in the greater Cincinnati area, send me an email because I'll connect with my landlord. Wow. But I think I just like, again, all of his places are pretty reasonably priced.
Yeah.
And I was just like constantly referring people to him. And like almost every one of my friends that's moved into one of his places has been there for like 5+ years. Yeah. So he was just kind of like, hey, I see all the posts about landlords and I know you don't feel that way. So thanks for sending me tenants. Thanks for trusting me. And then, I mean, like, that's I can't even, that's like a weird, I remember getting the gift card from him. And
are we just talking like a Visa gift card?
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
And
cool.
I was just sort of like, what's this for? Like, you know what I mean? I found it and it was one of those things where it's like, hey, Mark, it was a very like loose letter. And then
times are tough. Here's a Shake It Records gift.
That's kind of how it felt a little bit. And I was just, so I had to call him. I was like, is everything okay? And I was like, is there a problem? And I'm thinking like, I know you could get double out of my place. Is this what's about to happen? And it wasn't. He was just like,
softening
no.
a
That's what I thought it was. And
yeah.
it wasn't. No future blow. I mean, it's been like 5 years, and I'm like, no, record player's still working great. I had to replace the power supply on it recently, but aside from that.
Make sure he subscribes to this pod and make sure you mention that.
I will,
every
just so in the clip, yeah.
Just so he never feels tempted. After all this praise.
I've had a few mild price hikes, nothing I thought were out of line. You know what I mean? Again, like it was one of those, even when I first moved in, I was like, oh, you could get a lot more out of this.
It's probably not even him. It's probably just like Duke Energy, making things more expensive to even exist anymore.
I hate that whole thing too. And they're just like, well, that's a whole other show that we should do.
Yeah.
We're at like an hour and 15. I think we should wrap this baby up.
Cool.
Dude. I'm so glad we had this time. I know I said it at the beginning of the show, but I'm glad I've gotten to know you better over recent time. And then now, even more so now.
For sure.
So congratulations. Where would you like people to listen to your record?
Anywhere they prefer. It's
in their house.
Yeah, in their house, lights off, just by themselves, no parties. It's not background music. No, it absolutely is just
engage with it once that way. That's my request.
Sure, yeah. Yeah. But wherever you listen to music, it is these days you distribute something, it's everywhere that it exists. You have to opt out, and I obviously didn't because I just wanted to find, if you're comfortable with YouTube, it's there. If you're comfortable with whatever, did some music videos for the record.
Cool.
Directed, all the three are directed or co-directed, depending on which one I'm talking about, with a good buddy of mine named Sean Hiley.
Oh, sweet.
And I did his record, that, spoiler alert, will be coming out this year. So we kind of like, so a frequent and recurring collaborator locally that
I love that.
So on my YouTube page, like there's those music videos which we spend a lot of time and energy to do. So I'd love for people to see the visual element as well as the recording. But yeah, I mean the album again called Vestiges, a bunch of kind of old songs that I recently re-recorded, and just get a taste of what I used to be, and then I'll release some new music probably later this year. I wrote a song the month of the show to end the show with something new. So I was like, I've never done this kind of thing before, but then everything around associated with the show and the album is just so like hindsight that it was just like kind of bumming me out, like right in that 11th hour, like ready to release. I was like, I just kind of want to put a foot forward too. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So I've got some new stuff coming out too. But
I'll throw some links in the show notes and stuff so I can find you too.
Yeah. You can find Benjamin James Howard if you search that. I mean, I had to do all three names because people keeps taking my name.
That sucks.
There's another famous Ben Howard out there that everyone always sends me, the UK Ben Howard. He's got like a million listeners.
We should invite him on the show and then
we should
do some challenge. Yeah. I'm 100% for that. I will get a wrestling ring here if I have to. I'm pretty serious about that. UK Ben Howard, if you're out there, if you get tagged in this.
He's super famous. He's way more famous than me. But
what's he really got going on?
You know what we should do, though, is just write a song and record it together, and then it's just the Ben
cool.
Howards. Yeah.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
But everybody always sends me so I was Ben Howard, I think, credited wise, like on all these releases that I had, I was Ben Howard, and then I became Benjamin James, because it was still a family name. That's my middle name. And then so I was just Benjamin James for a really long time. And then coming back to this record, I just did at this point in time, all the like artist names are all taken, the solo thing. I never did anything solo till now. So I had to go full presidential.
Yeah, I love it.
Benjamin James Howard.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, if you can find it, it's like Googling that will probably just pull up my site and all those things.
Oh yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
dude, I'm so glad you came in here.
Yeah,
next time, if we can't get UK Ben Howard in here to fight, we'll at least do, I don't know, we'll try some vegan things together. I think that'd be fun.
Yeah,
open my horizons.
I would love to be a vegan contestant of some kind on some tasting opportunities.
Oh, that would actually be really fun. I might have something coming up for that.
Cool.
Then. Very cool.
Love it,
man. Well, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Well, on that note, folks, thanks so much for watching the show. Appreciate your time. Thanks for supporting us. I know a lot of you are over on the audio platforms, but I'm not even asking. I am begging you. Go support me on YouTube. I want to see the audience grow 10x there, like I see in the audio side. I do appreciate you listening regardless. Please don't misunderstand, but it would be very cool to see those numbers go up too. So yeah, follow us on YouTube. We got all the information in there. Download the Jungle Gyms app. Follow us on Eventbrite. You got all the drill. We'll see you at we saw you at Pickle's. We'll see you at Sandwiches of History on March 9th. I'll eventually announce that other festival soon. And in the meantime, you can see me out in the aisles. Woo! We're out.
The Jungle Gyms podcast is recorded in the WJJI studio inside Jungle Gyms International Market in Fairfield, Ohio. The Jungle Gyms podcast is produced and hosted by Mark Borison.